Hello, everybody. It's Carter here, and I'd like to talk about basketball with you guys. We just had 8 game 1 to start the NBA playoffs, so let's take a look at what we saw and what it means going forward for these series. All right, the first game of the weekend was the Indiana Pacers taking on the Milwaukee Bucks in Indiana, and the Pacers won very decisively, 117 to 98. And for Milwaukee, they just couldn't really make a shot. Giannis Antetokounmpo had 36 on 14 of 23, but the rest of the team really struggled. 35 of 84 from the field, 9 of 37 from three. All the starters combined for just one three-pointer made, and without Damian Lillard, the Milwaukee Bucks don't really stand a chance in this series because they don't have the level of shot making they need without Dame Lillard. I think that's why they brought in Kyle Kuzma to maybe try and offset that and be a third scorer, but he gave him 0 points in game 1, 0 points on 0 of 5. And it was a rough night for the entire offense where on the opposite end, the Indiana Pacers, they didn't have a lot of possessions necessarily, but they were uber efficient with the ball and ended up shooting 13 to 34 from three. Got big performances from Pascal Siakam with 25 and 7, and Andrew Nembhard with 17 points on 8 of 13. And so with that Pacers team, I think that they may not go on a deep run, but I think that this series should be a pretty easy win for Indiana. If I were a Bucks fan, I'd find very little to be encouraged by. All right, the second game we're going to look at here was the second matchup of the weekend between the Nuggets and the Clippers, which went into overtime when the Nuggets got the win. And obviously the Nuggets are going to be up in the series. They've got the 1-0 lead, but it feels almost as if they escaped with the win. They went down early. They were down double digits, I believe, at one point in the first quarter. But the problems that they ran into were that the Clippers are scoring at will. Very, very strong performances on offense from just about everybody on the Clippers roster. And that really comes back down to what Nikola Jokic has done or perhaps not done defensively. And obviously it's not his strong suit, but they're going to need more from Nikola Jokic on the other end because Kawhi Leonard was able to get to the rim too easily. Zubac was able to get too many rebounds, get too many second chance points, and Zubac was able to create chances for the Clippers that they shouldn't have had from his own post play, and as well as finishing the game with more rebounds than Nikola Jokic. And so we'll need for the Denver Nuggets, what they'll need to do is they'll have to find some way to experiment with what they're doing defensively, whether that is, they can't add somebody new now, but whether that is give DeAndre Jordan perhaps more minutes, because unfortunately, if they defend at the level they defended at in this game, they'll be in trouble. And they were able to get the win today with 29 points offensively from Jokic, as well as 12 assists. Aaron Gordon had a strong performance. He finished the game with 25. But going forward, I just don't know how this Nuggets team could win this series if Zubac is going to be getting 13 boards and 21 points, and you see James Harden finishing with 32 and Kawhi finishing with 22 when they're both scoring very efficiently from all three levels. So it's a 1-0 lead for the Nuggets, but there's still some work to be done in order to have a level of confidence for them to move forward. If I were to say right now, I believe the Clippers would win this series, which is not what I believed before this game started. The New York Knicks went on a 21-0 run to get the win against the Detroit Pistons. And it was a great performance from the Knicks stars, Brunson and Towns. Towns finished the game 23, 11, and 5 on 10 of 14 shooting. And Jalen Brunson had 34 points to go with 8 assists, 12 of 27 from the field. And For the Knicks, they really turned it up down the stretch. Obviously, they had the 21-0 run, but they were down in that third quarter of the game, and they managed to turn it around with a great performance late, outscoring the Pistons 40-21 in the fourth quarter, and it's a great performance for them. And it was a great performance from the role players too. People had their questions about how Mikal Bridges would do, how Josh Hart would do after some shaky performances throughout the season, but they were both solid tonight, or rather Saturday night. They did their jobs defensively, which is the main thing you need from both of them, but also 8 points on 4 of 9 from the field from Bridges, 13 on 6 of 10 from Hart, to go with 7 boards and 6 assists for Josh Hart. Josh Hart especially had a great performance all around. But for the Pistons, there is, for me at least, there's a concern that they don't have another creator in their offense, somebody who can get a shot for themselves. With Jaden Ivey missing, there's not a second player who can create his own shot on that team, in my opinion. And when Cade Cunningham has a night like he did on Saturday night, ending up just 8 of 21 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3, you need somebody to go score for you in isolation. And Tobias Harris and Malik Beasley both shot it well. Harris finished with 25. Beasley finished with 20. And they had a combined 10 3-pointers between the two. So it's not like they weren't effective, but when you're playing a team like the Knicks, who play great, solid team defense, it's going to be harder to scheme guys open like Malik Beasley and Tobias Harris. And that's where you need another creator if your guy, who is Cade Cunningham in the Pistons case, is off for the night. You need somebody else to get a bucket for you, and who can get it in isolation, who can get to the rim. Somebody who can really, you just put the ball in their hands and get out the way here and there, and that they'll get you some points. And the Pistons showed throughout the second half of that game they didn't really have it. And I think that will end up being a big concern for them going forward in this series. It's something to look out for. Can somebody on the Detroit Pistons, whether it be Cade Cunningham or someone else, step up when it matters, and maybe the schemed open looks become harder to find? The last game of Saturday night was the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Timberwolves just shot the skin off of the ball. They ended up winning 117-95 after shooting 50% from 3, 21-42. And for the Lakers, you don't really expect to have a team shoot that well multiple times, but also it seems that on defense the Lakers were over helping, and it was leading to some open threes that they didn't really need to have happen. And so maybe they could clean the defense up, but at the end of the day, 21-42 isn't something that is likely to happen again. The Timberwolves really created that gap in the second quarter of the game and just never looked back. They had a 38-20 second quarter, the Timberwolves did, and from there it was just smooth sailing for them. Naz Reid with 6 3-pointers made, Anthony Edwards with 4, Julius Randle even made 4 3-pointers. That was, I guess, not the most shocking thing in the world. He's a capable 3-point shooter, but a bit of a surprise to see Julius Randle go 4 of 6 from 3. But at the end of the day, I don't think that the Lakers should be too concerned about the trajectory of this series. Primarily because when one team shoots that well and the other team shoots so poorly, you have to look into it. But one thing to consider for the Lakers, Jackson Hayes didn't get much playing time, and they didn't really have any sort of paint presence after that. They tried running some smaller lineups with Finney Smith at the 5, with Jared Vanderbilt at the 5, but they ended up getting killed on the glass because of it. And although they were able to attack Rudy Gobert, which is why I still believe that the Lakers will win this series, I think that Rudy Gobert will be the player that they try to find on defense and see if they can get him stuck on the perimeter and stuck dealing with guards driving, especially Reeves and Doncic. But I believe that for the Lakers, this is all fixable. They can expect a positive regression in terms of three-point defense, and that they'll be fine going forward. But it's not a great start to the series, and they'll be down. They'll be down a game going into Game 2. The first game on Sunday was the Oklahoma City Thunder taking on the Memphis Grizzlies, and in that game, the Thunder put out what seemed to be almost a warning shot to the rest of the Western Conference and perhaps the rest of the entire playoff field. Just going out and start to finish destroying the Memphis Grizzlies. Final score of 131-80. And what was really concerning, or perhaps scary, is that for the Thunder, they didn't necessarily have their best game offensively. Jalen Williams finished with 20 points, but he didn't make a three-pointer in 4 tries. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was just not very good. He finished with 15 points on 13 shots. And even despite what looks like a weaker performance, to the point where if you told me that that was what you got from their 2 best offensive talents, I would have assumed that they lost the game or scraped away the game, and they ended up winning by 50 points. It's just impossible to score on this Thunder team. For Memphis, they couldn't really get anything going. Jaren Jackson, 2 of 13. Desmond Bane, 3 of 12. Morant, 6 of 17, including 1 of 6 from 3. Scottie Pippen Jr., 1 of 9. It was just all around a nightmare for Memphis from start to finish. And it looks like that's going to be a very, very not fun series for the Grizzlies if this keeps up. And I think it will keep up, because I don't know what they will change or what they could change. But for the Thunder, I think that they could almost feel as if the fans and media have been disrespecting them, and that could have possibly been motivation, because a large chunk of the talk in the media has been, yeah, the Thunder have been the best team, but if they play the Warriors or if they play the Lakers, experience will get to them and they'll lose that series. And I think that you could see that motivation, and you could see that through individual performances as well. Lou Dort found out a little bit before the game that he wasn't a Defensive Player of the Year nominee, and he was, again, the best defender on the best defensive team, like he has been all season. And I think that we've seen a very motivated Thunder team all year, but I think that we may see them turn it up a gear, and that may end up being the push that they need to get to the finals, an extra motivation of people doubting them. And right now, they look well in the driver's seat despite only playing 1 game. It doesn't even look like the Grizzlies have a way of posing a threat to them. And they'll be taking a 1-0 lead to Game 2 in Oklahoma City. And they'll be hoping to close this series out as soon as possible. And it looks like they will be able to, and I'll predict that they will. I will make the prediction that after Game 1, I believe the Oklahoma City Thunder will sweep the Grizzlies. The Boston Celtics ended up beating the Orlando Magic to take a 1-0 lead, but it was dicey. It was dicey. Going into the half, the Magic had the lead, and they looked as if they were able to get stops versus Celtics team, which wasn't something that I believed that the Magic would be able to do. And at halftime is where it fell apart for Orlando, and I believe that a large part in that is Franz Wagner finished the game with 23 points, 5 assists, 10 of 24 from the field. But the problem that I've had with his performance, and the problem I've had with his performance throughout the past few seasons, is he has not shot well from three. He was below 30% in the regular season, and 1 of 6 on Sunday. And with that in mind, he really kills that spacing, which is, it's peculiar because coming into the league, his first 2 seasons, he shot it very well. He was in the mid to high 30s as a three-point shooter, and so I don't know quite what's going on there, but if he's not going to shoot it well, which he hasn't, then he's going to have to be a bit more assertive in trying to get his looks at the rim, because he was passive. It felt like he deferred throughout the game, and that's not going to work. They're going to need, somebody's going to have to give Paolo Banchero some help. Banchero finished with 36 points on 14 of 27 from the field. He had a great performance, and but they're going to need something else from their second scoring option. They're going to need more efficiency, whether that's getting to the rim or knocking down more jumpers. They're going to need something else. But yeah, for Boston, this is how that Boston team kind of beats you. They've just got so many talented players where Jason Tatum can have an off night, finishing with 17 points, shooting 8 of 22 from the field. Jaylen Brown can finish with only 16. Kristaps Porzingis can finish with just 5. But then you get a 30-point game from Derek White, shot 10 of 18 from the field and 7 of 12 from 3. And it becomes almost an instance of, is there any way to slow their offense down? Because you get Derek White, who you don't particularly consider a big offensive player. Obviously, he has offensive abilities, and he's good enough for 16, 17 points a night. But it's surprising when you get, not surprising because he's incapable, but surprising because you feel like you've done the right thing. You've limited Tatum, you've limited Brown, you've limited Porzingis, and now Derek White scored 30 and Peyton Pritchard has 19 off the bench. And so I think that for Orlando, they're going to be in some real trouble this series, and I think that the depth of Boston will end up wearing them out, and that's kind of what we saw in this game for Orlando, going into the half with the lead and ending up losing by double digits. I don't intend to be cruel to the Miami Heat, but the Cavaliers kind of showed why we don't need a play-in, and that 37-win teams don't necessarily need to be in the playoffs. As Cleveland won 121-100, and they were able to just have a great performance on both ends of the ball. Ended up 45 of 88 from the field and 18 of 43 from three-point range. Very efficient night for them. Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland led the way. And how about Ty Jerome off the bench with 28 points, 10 of 15 shooting, 5 of 8 from 3. And Mitchell finished the game with the most points at 30, but it's very fun to see when guys who come off the bench have big games in the postseason. But the Miami Heat didn't quite look like they were able to compete with this Cavs team. And I don't know what they could do to change that going forward. I guess Tyler Hero and Andrew Wiggins can have some big games, and if that were to happen, then they can take a game off of the Cavs or anybody else. Just because of the nature of basketball, you can steal a game, but the Cavs are the better team in this series, and it's already very apparent through one game. And there's Bam Adebayo finished with 24 points, but he was settling for a lot of jumpers, and he ended up taking 5 3-pointers. That goes to show the work that Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley do down to the paint, where it's harder to find looks at the rim. Because if Bam Adebayo is going to try and beat the Cleveland Cavaliers with his outside shooting ability, then the Cavs will have a great feeling about this series, and they should believe in their chances to advance very well. The final game of the weekend was the Warriors versus the Rockets, where Golden State won 95-85. And if you are in the Rockets organization, you've just got to... You can't help but be frustrated with how this game's ended. They were not giving up really much of anything in terms of good looks, but Steph Curry does what Steph Curry does, and he finishes the game with 31 points, 12 of 19 from the field, 5 of 9 from 3. Jimmy Butler doing a decent job playing complement to that, 25 points on 10 of 19 from the field. But what you have to consider is that even with those performances from Butler and Curry, Golden State did not break 100 points, and I think that if over the course of this series, Houston can consistently keep the Warriors under 95 points, they can get some wins. However, they're going to need much better performances from their guards. And when I say their guards, I mean not necessarily Amen Thompson, who is really their point guard in the offense, but I'm talking more so about Fred VanVleet and Jalen Green. Jalen Green finished with 7 points, 3 of 15 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3. VanVleet finished with 10 points, 4 of 19 from the field, 2 of 13 from 3. And they're just not going to win games if Jalen Green and VanVleet can't hit shots. And to me, neither of Jalen Green and VanVleet were very convincing throughout the course of the season. I've always thought that both are too inconsistent and too inefficient, and that you never know what you're going to get from either of them. And which is why I believe that the Rockets, this wasn't the year for the Rockets to win a title, and that they were still a piece away. But I did still think that they'd get through this series against the Golden State Warriors, but they'll need something much better. A check and improvement from Fred VanVleet and from Jalen Green. Alfred Sengun ended up leading the way offensively with 26 points, 9 boards, 11 of 18. He played surprisingly well. I thought that he would be the player that really struggled having to go up against Draymond Green, but he did a great job, and the Rockets were able to out-rebound the Warriors, which was expected. Alfred Sengun is a good ball player, but he's not the number one scorer on a team that's going to go on a deep playoff run. And so with that in mind, Jalen Green's going to have to step up. Because from Houston, you've got to be happy with what you've got from everybody else. Especially in terms of all those defensive pieces on the wings. Dylan Brooks, Thompson, Tari Eason, and Jabari Smith off the bench. They gave you exactly what they asked for. They got a lot of stops, and they made it nasty on defense. And so that's what you need, but it's going to come down to, especially Fred VanVleet. He got so many open looks and was just not off of it. A lot of misses and a lot of bad misses. Front iron, off the backboard. They'll be counting on him to give them something much better in Game 2. But if they can get something better from Fred VanVleet and from Jalen Green, I'm going to stick with my belief that the Houston Rockets can win this series. That's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for sticking around for this video if you're still here. And I'm going to do another one of these next week, and I'll talk about, obviously it'll be more than one game that's transpired for each respective series, but just talk about what's taking place again this time next Monday. And so I think that'll be something to keep up during the playoffs, and it should be a fun experience, and I hope you guys enjoy this. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time.